Hello everybody, it's Jude Fay here again from thisbusinessoftherapy.com, and this is my second video in a series of short videos relating to the journey from being employed by somebody else to being self-employed. And I'm talking particularly in this context as being self-employed as a therapist, as opposed to the general sort of self-employment in ordinary business. This is a different type of business, and we're a different type of business people. So in my last video, I was talking about the journey from qualification through to self-employment and saying that it's a process, and it is a process. It takes time, and we transition from stage to stage. And I talked a little bit about how growth takes place, what prompts us to move from one stage to the next. And I'd like to explore that question a little bit more. Is it just a question of time? You know, a child born into the world over time grows into an adult. And you can see that they look and they sound and mostly behave like adults. But of course, as therapists, we know that somebody can be an adult body and have quite a lot of childlike behaviour, thought patterns and so on inside of us that we may have grown up on the outside, but we may not have grown up on the inside. As an adult, and particularly as people in the personal growth area as we are, we can make ourselves aware of what do we need as adults, what will help us to grow as adults. But the whole process of becoming self-employed as a therapist can be very, what's the best word for it? Disturbing. It can be very uncomfortable for a lot of therapists because, you know, business and therapy, they can seem like poles apart. So while the adult in us might be very much available to do the client work, sometimes when it comes to the business side of the practice, it's the child who's in charge, and it's the child who's making the decisions. What do those transitions need? The transition from child to adolescent to adult. I suppose first of all a supportive environment, and I mean both externally and internally. And sometimes the internal environment is actually even more important. You know, how is your temperature about the whole business being self-employed piece? You know, is it a friendly environment internally towards business, or is it a hostile environment? It's worth thinking about. But also outside, you know, do you have supports of people who are in a similar situation, who are perhaps going along the same journey or have gone along the same journey, you know? And I suppose what comes in there immediately is safety. You know, is it safe to put myself out there as a business person? Is it safe for me to make these changes, to do these things, to put myself out in the world in that sort of way? Is it safe to ask for money, for example? A child, as I was saying last week, a child is born into an environment and the family provides some form of holding. And, you know, where is that holding in relation to your practice? A child normally, unless they're very, very neglected and abused, a child will have normal desires and will reach out to learn. I mean, one of the first things a child does is it starts to put things in its mouth, its fingers and its toes, and, you know, its rattle and all of that sort of thing. And it's like, what is this? What is this? How do I meet this? You know, and they like to learn, and they're eager to learn, and curious and they're open to finding new resources. As a child practitioner, are you like that about your practice, about the business side? I mean, I absolutely know you're like that about the client work and about learning what needs to be learned and the skills and so on of being a practitioner. But what about the business side? You know, did you ever think about it? Do you have a desire as a business person? Do you have a desire to earn money? Do you have a desire to learn about business? Do you have a desire to see how other people do it and whether that would work for you? So that's something that needs to be there as well. We need to have permission. We need to have permission, just as a child needs permission to experiment and to explore and to reach out. As baby practitioners, we need to have that permission. Do we give ourselves that permission? Is that something that we've ever thought about? Have I got permission to market myself? Am I giving myself permission to market myself? Am I giving myself permission to be successful in financial terms? We also need some will. We need, the discipline. You trained as a therapist. It took you years. It took will to turn up for the lectures. It took will to do the assignments. It took will to go into the group processes when, you'd no idea what was going on and you absolutely hated it or whatever. It takes will to lean in to those particular places that might be uncomfortable for us or new for us or scary for us. And we also need a heart that is open to supporting and loving ourselves on this journey, to being kind to ourselves, to being understanding of our failures, to being understanding of our fears. And is that there? Is that there for yourself? Do you have a heart for the business side of your practice? We all know what gets in the way of a human being growing up on the inside. It's part and parcel of what we do. Unhealed experiences in the past, wounds and traumas, whether they're big T or little t traumas. And on the business side of things, it's absolutely no different. That's exactly what gets in the way. But we need to explore it in perhaps a slightly different way than we might have in our own personal journey, where, we meet whatever comes to us and we explore that in ourselves and so on, or what comes to us from our tutors or our fellow students or our clients for that matter. But if we're going to be successful on the business side of being a therapist, we have to be specific about the type of pieces that are important to being self-employed. And there are 3 that are more important than anything else, in my perspective, in my view. One is authority and personal power, our own authority, our own personal power to make decisions for ourselves, to make choices for ourselves, to bring our needs into the picture. Can we stand up for our practice and make our practice important? The second area is what comes up when people go out to market themselves, which is all about visibility. We have to look at that visibility piece. We can go through many years of our lives. We can have a successful career in an organisation working for someone else without ever really challenging that visibility bit. But if we're going to market ourselves, we need to be in there looking at that visibility. And the third issue, of course, is money. Again, when we work for somebody else, that doesn't tend to be a problem. That doesn't tend to, because somebody else is deciding what we're worth, because somebody else is ensuring that we get paid that, we don't really have to engage with it in the same way as we do when we're saying, I'm providing you with this service and I think it's worth X amount of euro and I'd like you to give me that money, please. So we do need to engage with those very specific issues. Fears of what have happened, things that have happened in the past also get in the way. Yes, there's the healing of the traumas and the wounds themselves, but there's also what we make of that, the belief that we make of that. I failed there, so I'm never going to be a success. This didn't work out here, so it's never going to work out for me. And those fears around trying again, taking another risk, putting ourselves out there again. As you all know, we are bombarded with pieces of information every second of every day, and our brain takes shortcuts in order to help us not go under in the face of all of that information. So the brain takes shortcuts based on what we know from the past. It looks at a piece of paper, or there's a card sitting on my windowsill here, it looks at that and it says thank you. It says, oh, there's a thank you card, I know what that is. And it makes assumptions as well. Because it worked this way, it's always going to work this way. Or because this didn't happen, it's not going to happen this way for me here either. The brain remembers big negative events, and of course not the brain, it's sort of embedded in our bodies as well. And our mind steps in and stops us from doing what we need to do to keep us safe. Absolutely, to keep us safe, but maybe being a bit overprotective maybe. So we might procrastinate, dare I say it. We might procrastinate. We might get distracted by something that's very tempting over there and takes away all our attention. My favourite one, turn up a whole lot of drama in my life just when I'm trying to do something over here. I have a goal and then this drama happens over here and I have to go and look at that. Or we work really, really, really hard but get nowhere. And, you know, lots of other things as well. I love that saying from A Course in Miracles, I see only the past. I see only the past. So that's it for today's video. I'm going to have another video for you shortly, and I will be back to the topic of support, what supports we might need, where we'll find it and where we won't find it, and I look forward to talking to you then. And don't forget, keep the 19th of October free.